Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Open Education Week here at the Canadian Initiative for Distance Education Research. Today's session is the first of a special series of 3 to mark not only OE Week, but also the 25th anniversary of the Open Access Journal and our host and partner, the International Review of Research in Open and Distributed Learning, or IRODL. Our session today will be directly tied to the experience of IRODL and of open access publishing more broadly, with IRODL's current editor-in-chief, Professor Rory McGreal at Athabasca University. On Wednesday, we'll have another current editor of IRODL, Dr. Connie Blomgren, and editor emeritus, Dr. Terry Anderson, who will speak about the evolution of open and distributed learning itself, with a particular focus on the past 25 years and how it continues to play out in the research. And then join us again on Friday at the same time for our third session, looking ahead to the future of emerging technologies and their potential role in supporting education internationally, with Drs. Adnan Khayyam and Lavina Ewan here at Athabasca University. If you'd like further details on these upcoming sessions and our presenters, or an upcoming session on artificial intelligence when we return to our regular season in April, visit CIDER at cideresearch.ca. But to return to today's session, this morning, Professor Rory McGreal will be offering us a retrospective on open access publishing, primarily from his point of view as editor-in-chief of IRODL, Canada's first open access journal and ranked #1 of all Canadian education journals, and how publishing as an open access journal has helped IRODL achieve the prominence it has over its 25-year history. But of course, open access also has a critical role to play in education itself. So he also brings to this story his experience as UNESCO and International Council for Open and Distance Education, Chair of Open Educational Resources, including promoting research through our work here at CIDER and also through the OER Knowledge Cloud, an open repository of research, policy, and more related to open education. And with that, I turn over the microphone to Professor Rory McGreal. Go ahead, Rory.
Thank you very much, Dan, for that kind introduction, and I'm very pleased to be speaking with everyone today about one of my favorite subjects, open access publishing, along with open educational resources. And today I'll be speaking, and I'll be using some of these slides have been developed by my colleague Terry Anderson, and I was looking through them the other day, and I just don't know which ones were his and which ones are mine, and some of them are a mixture of both. So you can just assume that if you have a complaint, that must be Terry's part of it, and if you've got something positive, it must have been mine. These slides are all available under a Creative Commons 4.0 international license. However, some of the images I can use through fair dealing laws in Canada, or fair use laws in the United States. So they are available for anyone who wants to use the slides and the images for research and education. The International Review of Research in Open and Distributed Learning is what we're going to start talking about today, because it's the 25th anniversary of excellence in open and distributed learning. And it started off, of course, as a distance learning, but as the world changed, the journal changed too. So as we began to incorporate not just distance, but also blended, hybrid, and other forms of online learning. And we were the first open access journal in Canada in the year 2000. And we also were instrumental in working with the university to found the AU Press as an open access journal, and probably the first in the world, we believe. And in 2008, we achieved a Diamond Open Access status. So the short story is this: it was founded in 2001, always actually it was 2000, but it was published in 2001. It's always been online, and it's always really been Diamond Access. It was Diamond Access before anyone had heard of Diamond Access or of OER, for that matter. Sponsored by Athabasca University. It's continuously been held by the university. In 2007, it gained indexing in the SSCI, Scopus, and many other of the highly ranked agencies, the ranking agencies. In 2004, actually prior to that, we had a fight from 2001 onwards, and Terry and I were the main instigators in that, led by Terry as the editor of Aerodal at that time. And we fought to have open access journal recognized by SSHRC for granting purposes, to get a grant. We did not get a grant in the first stage, but eventually we got it in 2004. We got funding for scholarly journals. Were only available for those with 100 or more paid subscriptions. So we sent out a letter to the readers, and we got more than 100 paid subscriptions of $10 each, and we got it in 2 weeks. But SSHRC, even then, they still refused to fund us, even after telling us that that's what we had to do. But however, the following year they changed the rules, and in 2016, SSHRC now only supports open access journals. And last week, they came out with an announcement that they won't even support any of the hybrid sort of half open access journals. So they've gone from being against open access all the way to being fully open access. And I think that Aerodal had a lot to do with this development. And as part of OER and with the support from UNESCO, we founded the OER Knowledge Cloud, which now has more than 2,800 published records, reports, articles about open educational resources, MOOCs, and other aspects of open education. And again, since CIDER was founded before that independently, but it became part of our journal Aerodal in around 2018. So in 2023, we had more than 75% of the articles in our journal were cited by other Scopus journals, with a CITE score of 4.2 and an SJR score of 1.11, which puts us in the 93rd percentile of journals in the educational technology field. And it's the highest ranked Canadian educational journal in SJR, and with an IF index of 0734, an H5 index 36, and a 5-year index of 1, and Scimago index of 61, and ResearchGate 1.35. And basically what it means is we are a very highly ranked journal in the field of educational technology. And we are the highest ranked open access journal in our field. And we are members of ERUDI, which is a collaboration of different journals being supported by SSHRC to highlight and make more available any Canadian journals. And we've been with them since the founding. And we've also been supporters of Coalition Publica, and we use their software, the Open Journal systems. which was part of the Public Knowledge Project. Now I want to talk about the journal impact factors. And there are many different journal citation reports, and this is where these are organizations that rank the journals or that are used to rank the journals where they fit in the scholarly landscape. And you can see there's quite a few of them there. In order to achieve ranking in Scopus or SSCI or a Google Scholar or any of these, a journal must first be ranked. They must join the Emerging Sources Citation Index, ESCI. And so you do not get accepted by Scopus and the other ranking agencies until you've been on ESCI for a few years. So that would be the first step of any journal now to get recognized. It's peer reviewed. It follows journals in ESCI. They must be peer reviewed. They must follow ethical publishing practices. They have to meet the technical requirements. They must have English language bibliographic information. They can be in other languages, but the bibliographic information must be in English. And they have to be recommended or requested by a scholarly audience of Web of Science users. And the impact factor, how they determine it, is shown there. That they divide the total number of times an articles were cited during the two previous years, and they divide it by the total number of citable articles in the journal during those 2 years. And that becomes a journal's impact factor for a particular year. It's important to remember that impact factors cannot be used to compare journals across disciplines. They are relatively usable within your field. For example, our field would be educational technology, or even a shorter field of distance education. But within that field, you can sort of rank the journals, and it gives you an idea of the relative ranking. But you could not compare it with a journal that's in another field. So the impact factor goes by the mean number of citations, comparing journals in a field. It's not perfect, but we haven't seen anything better yet. It's not for individuals or institutions, and it's not for individual articles. And so the formula you can see below. Now, there is an author impact factor, and that's the mean number of citations of recent articles. Again, it's not perfect. This is for individuals, and it could be used for institutions with many authors. But don't forget that the impact factor is a metric for journals. It's not to be used to assess individual researchers or institutions, which the founders of these impact factors stated, but in fact, they are being used, and even against the advice of the ones who developed the calculations. And then the other measure they use is the eigenfactor. It's how many people read the journal, the price value info on cost effectiveness, the number of citations over 5 years, and it's adjusted to different disciplines, and the scores are freely available. So that's another measure that can be used. And of course, one of the main indexes is the H index or Hirsch index. And each new article has the value of the journal associated with it. So if you published in a high-ranked journal, you get a high rank right off. The numbers correlated with the number of citations of articles, and it's only the most highly cited articles. It has high predictive value, and it grows with the age of the researcher, which of course makes sense. The older you are, generally the more you've published, so there's more in there, so it'll grow. The index only works for comparing researchers, and again, I'm saying this, in the same field. And citation conventions differ widely depending on your field. So, what are top researchers in EdTech, and what are their indexes? The Hirsch index and the I-10 index is the number of papers with 10 plus citations. And here you see a number of 3 of the highest researchers. I don't put their names in here, in EdTech, and what their citation indexes are, just to give you an example. So the more criteria for acceptance of articles, the timeliness, the digital format, of journals, the timeliness, the digital format, international editorial conventions. Does it use a title, abstract, biblio, context, all of that stuff? Full text references in Roman alphabet, international diversity, and citation analysis, which does not allow for self-citations. It eliminates self-citations. And they use another measure is Bradford's law of scattering. And what they do is they divide the corpus of the journal into 3 equal parts. And the core would be 3 sources of about 130 articles. They take 130 articles and the 3 best ones. The second tier would be 9 sources, and then the bulk 27 sources out of 130 articles. And they use this law in order to measure the strength and the ranking of a journal. And to give an example, in the first zone, you'd have a number of journals, 13, the number of citations, 551. And so they'd be the ratio 1. And in fact, according to Bradford's law, it's 1. And then the second number of journals, 61, number of citations, 552. So to look at that properly, you see that 13 journals have 551 citations. In group 2, it takes 61 journals to have 552 citations. And group 3, it takes 411 journals to have 561 citations. So the ratio should be 1:532, is 1:532, and according to Bradford's law, it should be 1:525. And that's how they rank the journals. But remember this, that the scientific work of an individual article has nothing to do with the impact factor of a journal. That is, you could have a absolutely seminal article in a low-ranked journal, and you could have one that is not cited by anyone in a high-ranked journal. Now I'm going to move on to the biggest problem in educational publishing, the problem of commercial publishers. And there's been an increase in journal prices compared to the increase in averages for select metrics. So you look at the average price of journals skyrocketing, whereas the impact factor has been fairly steady, growing slightly. The eigenfactor has grown a bit more, and the average cost per citation has only barely grown. So the journal prices are skyrocketing You can see here up to more than $1,000 and $2,000 and even greater than $2,000 for different journals. The top 5 publishers are led by Elsevier. Wiley is second, and Springer is third, and you have others, Taylor and Francis and Sage are up there. Now, the number of art academic published by the top 10 publishers, note that it's led by Elsevier, of course, Springer's second, Taylor, Francis, Wiley, etc., and it goes all the way down to less publishers. The purple part is the part that's open access. So open access has become part of these different commercial publishers. Academic publishing nets over $7 billion per year. So when you think of publishing, don't think of Harry Potter or 40 Shades of Grey or any of these. This is peanuts for the publishing industry compared to what they make from academic publishing. Academic publishing is the most profitable area of the entire publishing industry. And the current academic publishing market is over $10 billion in global annual revenue. They use 150 million knowledge workers who are the readers of the journals. They have 10 million authors who author for free, and they have 1.5 million publications per year, and that's the product. So that's the publishing market, and the commercial publishers profit greatly from this. Elsevier and Taylor Francis had a 35% profit margin in 2023, the latest year that we could get statistics. The corporate profit margins, if you compare them, Elsevier with the Bank of America's profit margins, with Toyota's profit margins, with Walmart's profit margins, you can see that there is a huge gravy train going on here. The profits are incredible. They are higher profits than all of these other industries. And yeah, no, I can't read them. I apologize for that. I just had eye surgery, and I used to have glasses, and now they say I don't need glasses, but apparently I do for that. I can't read that as well as I could. So the large commercial publishers are just swallowing up the money. They get the money from our universities and other public institutions. They have over 3,000 journals. Their total global revenue weighs in somewhere between the recording and the film industries in size, but it's far more profitable than the film industries and the recording industries. A 36% profit margin, higher than Apple, Google, or Amazon. They have double the profit margin of other successful magazines. A 2005 Dutch bank report referred to it as a bizarre triple pay system. And this is the system. The state, the government, the universities, they fund most of the research. They pay the salaries of those checking the quality of the research and the people who do the research. And then the universities buy it from the published product after paying for everything. So it's a real gravy train. So it works like this. The academic journal publisher publishes facilitates peer review, and it packages the content, and then the the faculty scholars produce everything for free. The academic commercial journals publish it and package it, and then they sell it at an enormous price to our libraries, and the libraries are used by the academic researchers. And so we're paying for what we produce ourselves. However, there has been a reviewer's revolt, and many people, including myself, I refuse to review for any commercial journal. And there are a growing number of academics who will not review for a commercial journal. And of course, I said to them, I would review, but you have to pay me. And of course, they don't pay you. So I do not review for them. So it's been in the news. Is Elsevier ready for success? Elsevier clashes with researchers over open access publishing. Stupid patent of the month. Elsevier patents online peer review. And scientists sign a petition to boycott academic publisher Elsevier. And how much do academic subscriptions cost? And the average put out is that it's about $6,000 per full-time faculty per year. And so this is I would call it a travesty, and it's of our own making. And can you afford to buy your peers' knowledge? And again, you may have to buy the articles, especially if you're not affiliated with a university that has a license. And it's very expensive for, especially for academics in third world countries and in the global south. So there's a movement now of open access publishing, which I've told you that Rodel has been in for years. And there's different types of open access models. And you see on the left is the one that's not open access. You pay, it's closed or a subscription model. And then you get bronze open access, where you pay an article processing charge. You're not allowed to share them, but with an open access processing charge, you can adopt a hybrid system. And then there's gold open access, where again you pay a article processing charge in order to be able to use it outside of the journal. And the one that we recommend and that Rodel is in is the Diamond Open Access, which is fully free. It's free for the readers, it's free for the authors, it's free for everyone, whereas the other ones you pay. And of course, there is such a thing also as green open access, where you don't send it to a journal, you just self-archive it and make it available. But generally, for promotion and tenure reasons, academics need to have it published in a recognized, respected journal. And with the complex colors of open, you can see that Diamond OA covers all. So you have some that have the authors retain the copyright. It's free for authors and free for readers, and it's peer reviewed. And some of them only have part of this conglomerate, but Diamond Open Access has all of them. Free for authors, free for readers, peer reviewed, and its authors retain the copyright. So gold open access, it works like this. Conducts research and revises an article, sends the article to the publisher. The editor sends the article for reviewing. The review is accepted or rejected or sent for revisions, and it may go back to the author. It usually does go back to the author. If that process is followed, it then goes, it's made freely available to everyone, generally if you pay the article processing charge to the commercial journal. So Elsevier, yes, it goes gold open access. It charges a median of $2,600. So if you want it to be published in Elsevier, you have to pay $2,600 to have it open access. Martin Weller, an academic at Open University in the UK, he has called this open washing. And I think he's right. It's people pretending to be open. And the general attitude of the commercial publishers is, yes, we support open, just pay us for it and compensate it for us for the potential losses that we might have. So they have gold open access now in the other publishing areas as well. So they've all gone for it. They all support openness. And again, it's open washing. So global scholarly publishing by access type, you can see that subscription-only commercial journals are still at the top. However, there's been a very strong rise in gold open access, and bronze open access and green open access are sort of staying steady without much growth. And the diamond, sometimes they refer to diamond open access as platinum open access. So the gold open access, the journals are open and they're hybrid. That by hybrid in academic pub means they have both copyright constrained articles and open access articles in the same journal. They pay to make it open, you pay an article processing charge for open access, and then it's sent out as open access. For Diamond open access, these are open journals. You don't pay anything, or platinum, you can call it. There's no publication fee, and it goes immediately to open access once published. The Directory of Open Access Journals tries to keep tabs on what the good open access journals are. It's community curated online directory. It indexes high quality open access peer reviewed journals, and it gives, it now has a basic criteria for inclusion, and it provides the DOAJ seal, which Erodal has this seal. So we are one of the most highly respected open access journals in our field. Now, what if someone else agrees to pay the APC? And this is what's happened, is that in Germany, Austria, and the UK developed national APC payment systems. So in order to make sure that the commercial publishers maintain their high profit margins, the governments will pay the APC for authors in their different countries. And on top of that, there are about 50 institutional open access publication funds in the USA. So the commercial publishers have arranged it so as even with open access, they still get to keep their high profit margins. Of course, some don't agree with the control that the commercial publishers have. And Sci-Hub was formed by a lady in Kazakhstan, and they call it the most controversial project in modern science. It provides free and unrestricted access to all scientific knowledge. And it contains 95% of all papers that have a DOI. And important to note that the 5% missing are the older articles. As the new articles coming on board, they put them up fairly reasonably and fairly quickly. However, it's considered illegal in most Western countries, but it is highly used by by academics in the southern countries in the global south. And now we have the problem of predatory publishers. These are predatory journals, and what they do is they ape real legitimate journals and give names to their journals that are similar to those of major journals, major respected journals. And sometimes they even use exactly the same name. And they ask you to contribute. You'll get invitations. I get about 3 invitations a week at least to publish in these journals. And they are considered predatory. They do not do proper peer review, and you pay them an access processing charge, which is what their which is what their business case is. So you pay them, they'll publish your article in a journal that looks that could look legitimate, and they're making money off it. And this is a real problem for open access journals. Grunewitz characterized these journals this way. They have false or misleading information. It's a deviation from best editorial and publication practices. There's a lack of transparency, and they use aggressive and indiscriminate solicitation practices. For instance, some of you may have got an invitation that they said, oh, we noticed you had this great article, such and such, this. They give the title on this journal, and we would invite you to publish in our journal. And of course, it's an aggressive and indiscriminate solicitation practice. They send them out to everybody. They don't really like your article. They haven't read your article, but they use that to entice people in. And this is from Australia. An estimated 4,000 Australian academics are on these journal boards. Downs published this a few years ago, and Stephen Down, and they don't know they're on the boards. They just take the names of academics and put them on the boards. So there's a problem between predatory journals, which call themselves open access, as long as you pay the fee, and real legitimate open access journals. The overgeneralization of the flaws of some open access journals to the entire open access movement has led to unjustified prejudices among the academic community towards open access. So it's a real problem for us in the open access field. And there are books that go into this if you're interested in delving more. The Predatory Practice Paradox. And it links other books and links to more papers. And it talks about fake peer review. And of course, there are predatory conferences. And these generally they pick a spot where somebody would like to go to. Barcelona is very popular, and they pick Greece, the Greek islands, and things like that. And they have no no real academic credibility. They have no proper editorial control. That is, if you submit your paper to them, it will be accepted. There's no real review of it. And they have a lot of false advertising. They claim the involvement of prominent academics who are, in fact, uninvolved. So they use names of major academics in the field, and they do it without their knowledge. And of course, the key is you want to be very careful about these conferences. There are more of these conferences than there are regular conferences. They actually outnumber official scholarly events. So you want to be wary of these. And there's another report on this, combating predatory academic journals and conferences, which is available. And now we see the phenomenon of zombie journals. So what's a zombie journal? Well, here's the example that's being used, is the journal Lingua was an Elsevier journal, and the entire editorial team of respected linguistics journal, they resign en masse in a turf war over publishing. So they got fed up of Elsevier and they all resigned. And but what happened? Had a backlog of articles, and they kept publishing the Elsevier journal, even the Lingua journal, even after it was dead. The entire editorial board, all the reviewers, nobody was working for it. And this is what you call a zombie journal. In fact, the editors founded their new journal called Lingua as an open access journal. And it took 6 years from the transition for Lingua to drop out of the H5 index top 20 at Google Scholar for languages and linguistics, and for Glossa to proudly take that vacated place in the protracted twilight zone. So their new journal, the legitimate one, they called Glossa. But for 6 years, Lingua was in the top, and it remained there. And so it's what they classified this as a dead journal that's still going strong, a zombie journal. And here's Glossa, and it has the legitimate editorial board, and they're publishing now. And we're hoping that the zombie has had a stake through its heart by this point. And commercial publishers are eating your journal's brains. Don't be the last editor at a zombie journal. Take shelter with the open access. Now I'd like to talk about artificial intelligence and publishing. It came to the fore last year, maybe 2 years ago, and people are beginning to understand what artificial intelligence is, and it's generative AI for research. And how are we going to deal with this phenomenon? And artificial intelligence, it can sense, it can reason, it can act, it can adapt. And so all of these things, and AI, it's rapidly transforming research workflows from hypothesis generation to data analysis and manuscript drafting. tools like generative AI and large language models are poised to revolutionize peer review, potentially speeding up the process. So it's a major impact on publishing. An article review, it evaluates and summarizes. The audience has knowledge of the subject. It makes points of the strongest arguments. It can critique the work and how it contributes to the field. And you only include your own thoughts and opinions, no additional research. That's what a review is. An AI can do all of these things. So we have to take note of this, and we have to figure out what we're going to do about this phenomenon. And there are many different generative AI tools now. DeepSeek has just made a big splash from China, but the others are there. There's some that are sort of, they're not generative AI, but they are AI like Grammarly. So people think, oh, this AI is new. They've been using it a long time. If they've been using grammar checkers like on Word or Grammarly or other things that have helped them. And so we have to face up to this phenomenon and see where it's going with the research. And I'm giving you this table. I wrote an article on micro-credentials, blockchain, and artificial intelligence, and I asked AI to give me a table comparing the three. And this is what they came up with. And I can honestly say I could not have done better than this. And I consider myself to be a reasonably strong researcher in the field. And the question is, why wouldn't you use this? Why would I spend a day or two and maybe coming back a week later and revising it to get this? This came up not in minutes, it came up in seconds. So literature reviews have been used for quite a while now. Tools like Elicit or SciSpace, Copilot, and others help you do the literature review. For me, I spent weeks in the library doing my literature review. And now you can have a literature review that'll do it for you, and it will be as good or as better as you can do, as you would do yourself. And maybe you need to add a little bit or take a little bit off here or there, but why wouldn't you use these tools? You know, it's like when I first went to university, the professor said, buy the best slide rule that you can afford because you'll have it for your whole life. And the following year, calculators came out. I shouldn't say that. The following year, I found out about calculators. I think they were out even then when he was telling us to keep buying a slide rule. Now, it's hard to find anyone who even knows what a slide rule is. So here are these new tools that that increase our productivity, and we'd better get using them. We've used reference management tools for years. And again, if you're doing research and you're not using these tools, you're undermining your own productivity. And again, these are AI, but a primitive form. They're not the latest version, but we've been using these type of tools for years. And I'd like to put this question to you, and Terry and I have discussed this a few times, is why publish a research paper in academia? Research paper production, the average median increase in papers per faculty member for the last 10 years has been incredible. In in the global south, in China and in other areas of the world, they're putting pressure on academics that you have to publish at least three journal articles a year in highly ranked journals. And I showed you earlier on the H factor of some of the top researchers in our field, and nobody publishes 3 research articles a year in our field consistently. Maybe one year they do. They have ups and down years, but not consistently. And this pressure to publish is making it so as that it sort of feeds these predatory journals and other phenomenon. And we're looking at, how much we really need to be supporting it. With increasing numbers of academics, expansion and specializations of science, do we need more publications? Or do we need more and better teachers? And this is an interesting question. We haven't come to any conclusions on it, but I think that we need to think about these issues, especially with AI coming on. So we're in the educational technology field. If you're in the educational technology field and you're not using educational technology, then why are you in this field? So if you're not using generative AI in our field, and I can't speak for other fields, I feel it may be the same for all fields, but it may not be. But in our field, you use generative AI. So if you're not using generative AI to help you write your article, why not? What is the problem? Why wouldn't you use the technologies that are available to help you write your article? And this one I know is Terry's. He gave me this slide to show that some of the research, you wonder about the value of the research. And the top one, experimental replication shows knives manufactured from frozen human feces do not work. And catch me if you can, strategies for hiding infidelity. And these are actual journal articles in our scholarly journal field. So it makes you wonder, and I think we need to have to discuss more about where we're going with all this. So with that, I'll thank you very much, and if we have time, I'm certainly open for discussion, questions, and you can feel free to contradict me. Nobody ever agrees with me anyway.
All right, so thank you, Professor Rory McGreal. Yes, we do have one hand up already from Adnan, and anyone else who would like to ask questions, you're welcome to do so either by putting up your hand or posting in the chat. So Adnan, do you have a question?
Thanks, Rory. That was really interesting, as usual, and I love that ending. A couple of questions for you, given what you just said. One of the roles one of the groups I work with or volunteer with is academic review research funds. And we get a lot of applications for people who want to actually get funding to publish their articles in open access journals, but they wouldn't be open access journals in the way that we'd consider to be any sort of diamond access. What are your thoughts about universities actually creating these funds for those sort of journals, which are whatever Elsevier or Springer, et cetera, but the universities, want to help support their academics to publish, so they create these research funds. And I'm on one of these review committees, which actually looks at these. But a part of me thinks like we're giving money to these publishers. It's like straight university to publishers. So what are your thoughts about that kind of money folio that universities set up for that?
I'm totally against giving them a penny, Adnan. And yes, I do know a lot of universities will pay the production fees, the APFs. They'll pay that for the scholar, and then they can open access it. I've had a few discussions with scholars about that, and I've suggested, I don't know if I was right to do this, but I've suggested that if it's you have to pay for the open access, then don't pay it and just publish it as a closed content, and then put your briefing paper or your, what do you call it, your experimental paper online on AU Space. That's what I've advised. I could be wrong about that, but I wouldn't give them a penny. I think it's a big scam. That whole article processing fee charges. It's one of the biggest scams going, and I think we should discourage them from doing it. But does the APDF pay for those now?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, and I guess if it's in the policy that they'll pay them, and you're on the committee and they apply for it, you have to give it to them, don't you?
But that's it, right? Like we look at it for the quality, for the actual, has it been peer reviewed, et cetera, and it's gone through all of that. Now they want to make it open access, so they apply. And then if it meets those criteria, we say yes. But a part of me thinking like, this is just the money, the university throwing money at the publishers.
Maybe we should change the policy in the APDF. That'd be what would need to be done.
Yeah.
I don't think we'd get unanimity among our faculty to do that, but
yeah, great. Thanks,
Catherine.
All right, sir. Thanks, Rory.
Yeah. Go ahead, Catherine.
Hi, Rory. Thanks for that. Have you been in touch with any of the librarians associations around the world, and what are they saying about all of this?
The librarian associations are one of the biggest supporters of open access around the world, just about everywhere. It's being led by librarians and their librarian association. They see what the real costs are to the libraries and how much they're paying. Most academics don't have a clue. I'd say 99% don't have a clue how much those journals are charging to universities. And so librarians are our first line of offense against the publishers. And they've come up with some interesting proposals. In the US, the Library Association said that we should reserve a certain percentage of our money for supporting open access journals, and increase that every year, the percentage every year until we get rid of the others. But I haven't seen that it's really gotten anywhere yet.
All right, so we have a question.
I love librarians. They're the big leaders in this. Sorry, go on, Dan.
No, I just think we have a comment and question here in the chat from Lavina. I don't know, Lavina, if you want to grab the microphone for this or just want me to read it out of the chat. But Lavina's talking about AI and the role of AI in co-authoring.
Sure, yes, I can grab the mic.
Sure.
Yeah, if we have time. Yeah, thank you so much, Rory. I just thought it was a really interesting and very thoughtful and detailed discussion and exploration of, open education and publishing. And so I had a couple of sort of thoughts, and they're really discussions around chatbots and how they're being used more and more for co-authoring papers and being involved in the publication process. So I was just wondering, from your point of view, as we're seeing more and more of these chatbots being used to help with co-writing papers, how that might affect some of the information that's being freely, available, that are locked behind paywalls versus the ones that are freely available. And also, my second question was about, as an editor of a journal, have you noticed sort of a change in the quality of writing or submissions that you've been receiving?
I haven't noticed a major change yet. You could ask the other editors. Have you, Adnan or Aga, or have you noticed any change yet?
Go Adnan. Okay.
So I haven't, but somebody just mentioned one last week actually about an article which looked like a substantial amount of it was AI, but I myself have not encountered it. But it's funny you mentioned that, Lavina, because that actually came up just last week in a discussion.
So it's starting to appear, but it's noticeable when it's there. Yeah. So, you know, it's so noticeable to us, I guess, thanks to our experience, that if the quality is not there, it just doesn't make it through the first screening. If the quality is there, then we should ask questions about it. If the authors do not openly notify us of any help, right, that was received from the Gen AI or whatever it is. But we do ask that question, so there is an opportunity to basically clarify that AI tools have been used.
Yeah, okay. And for me, I have a very well, you all know me as being opinionated, but I'm very blunt about this. Is if you're not using AI to help you write your paper, what are you doing in the educational technology field? Why are you in this field? Of course you're going to use AI. Why wouldn't you? I mean, what, you're going to deliberately cripple your article when you could make it better by using a tool that's widely available? And you're refusing to use the technology? Like, it doesn't make any sense. So for me, what I see and what I do, I use AI in my articles, and I've sent a few for publication, and I put at the bottom that I used AI. And I'm doing that now, but in the future, I can see is they'd have to put at the bottom that they didn't use AI and explain to us why they wouldn't in an educational technology journal. It doesn't make any sense to me. But
just a comment.
It's changing very rapidly. Yeah, if you're not using, if you have a tool that can help you write better, analyze better, describe better, do statistics on your data better, and you don't use it, and you're in our field in educational technology, there's something wrong there that I can't understand. And so I think we have to come to terms with this. And I'll tell you, if an article is written totally by AI and it passes review, I believe we should publish it, except with the one onus, is if the author lies and says that they did it, that's fraud. That's fraud.
Thank you for that, Rory, because that's exactly what I was thinking about. And all these, so there have been a few instances when it was openly declared that AI was used, and it does help reviewers. It absolutely helps in that, you know, dialogue and support of the authors, right? To understand where, you know, if there is an error that's caught, where does this error come from, if there is one, right? So just that transparency and was it used or not really helps in supporting authors.
Yes, and if you're reading a paper, I'm reading a paper, I'm thinking, gee, if that guy had used AI, this error wouldn't be in here. And so we're in a major change. This is a bigger change. I've been through the change to computers. I was in the big change to the internet, the big change to mobile learning, and this is a bigger change than all of them put together. And we have to learn to deal with it. And we're in educational technology, so we have to be leading in this. And to me, AI, is essential. I wouldn't do anything without AI now. I mean, why would I just put in a submission and I used AI to help me write the submission? Why wouldn't I do that? Instead of it taking me a few hours, it took me an hour to with the AI and to change it and to make it the way I wanted it and to work with it. I did it. Why wouldn't I do that? It doesn't make any sense not to. And I'll tell you, in industry, they're using AI all the time, everywhere in business, industry. And if they're not using AI, their productivity won't be good enough for their employers. They have to use AI now. And that's the world we live in.
All right, Terry, did you
I'm
have,
looking forward to these the first doctoral theses that come in that have been helped substantially by AI. And my guess is there'll be a major improvement over what we've had.
all right, Terry, did you have something you wanted to get in there? We can't hear you, Terry.
Sorry about that. I guess my comment was to Aga at first that, like if she can see when there's AI written, well, I think that's because AI is 2 years old. Once it gets to be 10 years old, you probably won't be able to tell. But I'm sure the reviewers can't tell. And so it does raise this whole question of how do we find out what's a real contribution? And in my mind, the only thing that really counts is data. That these AI tools will sleuth out what's already on the existing net, but they can't generate brand new data. They can synthesize what was out there and summarize it and take a look at different graphical views of it, but they can't generate data. So maybe we're going to be entering a golden era where people don't just get citations for writing opinion pieces, but they're forcing us to get data of not just quantitative data, but qualitative data as well. Thanks.
Yes, and just the two papers I have just submitted, one had the quantitative data and the other paper had qualitative data. And I ran with it and basically a partnership with artificial intelligence and in putting it together. But the data work was mine. And actually in the statistics work paper, it was mine, but I have to confess that Dan helped me with the graphs. But the actual gathering the data and working with the data and analyzing it, I did it with AI. And those are the one. But I don't know if the journals I sent them to are going to publish it, because I did put at the bottom it was done with AI, and there's some kind of an idea among a lot of academics. They don't want AI. They want to stop students from using AI. So we'll see what happens.
All right. So with that, I think we can bring today's session to a close. We are going to be back again on Wednesday with Drs. Connie Blomgren and Terry Anderson. We're talking about the evolution of open and distance education. So that will be at the same time, same place. So just return to the CIDER website again and click through, and you'll be able to join us for that. And then we'll be back again on Friday with Adnan and Lavina, who will be talking about emerging technologies and international education. This recording will be posted online at the CIDER website in a few hours. And I do hope that we will get some attention from some of the students who probably really need to know a lot about what you're talking about with predatory journals and predatory conferences and so on. Lots of valuable information for them there, I think. Okay, So with that, I think we can bring it to a close. Thank you to our presenter today, Professor Rory McGreal, and thank you to our audience for joining us for this. See you
Thank you
again
very much for listening to me, and thank you, Dan, for organizing this.